All right, Duran says, a deal is not closed until the invoice is paid. A deal is not closed until the invoice is paid. A deal is not closed until the invoice is paid. A deal is not closed until the invoice is paid. A deal is not closed until the invoice is paid. He says, Normies, starting a business is risky. Also, Normies, it's been 2 weeks. Why aren't you rich? So which is it, slow and risky or fast and easy? Normie Logic EXE has cracked. Is anyone using AI voice agent on their business website yet? Do users engage with it or bail?
Yo, it's Frankie Fihn. Beach mode engaged. Loom's loaded, AI's humming. Let's go!
Welcome back, everybody, to another Agency Owners Weekly Q&A. I am Frankie Fihn, the greatest of all time. Been doing this agency thing for almost 20 years now. So it's been a long time, not quite 20 years. I think I'm on year 19 officially. So anyways, happy to share this cool stuff for those of you guys who are regular watchers. I appreciate you guys. Your questions and stuff. This is the reason I keep this baby going. The cool shit you guys ask and stuff like that. Just a quick little announcement that I am doing a live training this Thursday at 10:30 a.m. And it is specifically for those of you guys who really don't like the fulfillment side. I have figured out a solution that does not involve partners and things like that. It is taking your essential stuff and turning it into tools. And the magic of tools is you never get burnt out from it. For me personally, what that's meant, it's the difference between, hey, can you give me a call and can you update us, versus here's your download. In fact, nobody ever got burnt out selling tools. And usually when we sell tools, the hardest part of my job is somebody goes, I didn't get my download link. And I go, oh, okay, well, here's your download link. So if you guys are interested in checking that out, either drop a comment on here, just write the word training, or send me a message privately if that's cool, and I will get you a link. There's no registration or whatever. I'm just going to send you a calendar link so you can add it to your calendar, and we'll see you there. That's it. That's all I got for you guys in that bad boy. Other than that, let's get into the good shit. I need a drink of water for this baby right here. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, Frankie Fihn proudly brings you our weekly Q&A. With, by the way, the man they call the man, the greatest of all time, His Holiness, Frankie Fihn. All right, let's get into your questions, into the good shit here. Andy says, Frankie, that's the first word, that's right. Andy says, Frankie, would love your perspective on this. Here you said, sell an outcome, not activity, and I agree 100%, but something happened this week that makes me reconsider what you said here. My mother-in-law got a stroke yesterday, and of course we rushed her to a hospital here. After an MRI, we decided to go ahead with the surgery, and long story short, the surgery failed. The surgery team was not able to unclog a portion of the blood vein in my mother-in-law's brain, and she is not better off after the surgery. Not looking for sympathy here, but as bad as this situation, I think we can learn something. How is it possible for doctors to charge us a lot of money for surgery and not guarantee a result, but only to perform an activity, surgery, and require us to sign a waiver papers beforehand, and us, the patient's family, not blaming the doctor for whatever the result of the surgery is? And most importantly, how can we do the same for our business? Well, firstly, Andy, let me just say condolences. That's a difficult situation to be going through, and sometimes life just throws you fucking difficult shit. I don't know what to say other than, I think the best thing you can do is, one of my mentors calls it turning shit into shinola, the old lemons into lemonade. How can we use this as best we can in our own lives? And I mean that both personally and professionally, you know what I mean? It's not always easy, but there is a creativity and an art to, I think, like the analogy, being that, if you're waiting to play poker for a perfect hand, you'll be waiting a long ass time because there's not a lot of perfect hands. But if you figure out how to play the best with some shitty hands that get dealt, you'll win more money than if you're waiting for perfect hands all the time. So, that's a shitty situation, but I send you nothing but blessings and, just prayers and whatever good juju we can send through the ether. Let's talk about your question in terms of the doctor don't guarantee shit. He says there's a chance it may not work, and you're totally okay with that and all of that. So there's a lot to unpack there. And I believe that if you want to run a bitchin' agency, you should sell more like doctors and medical people, like a marketing doctor, and way less like a hypey internet bro of you're going to get rich and more leads and more sales and more customers, that you're really like a doctor of broken business function. So let's talk about what doctors have done to engineer that. Because as a general rule, what I said is true, that selling outcomes is more valuable than selling, hey, I'm going to do an activity, in this case, surgery, and hopefully it works, but it may not work. Um, so the first thing is doctors, as a general rule, especially for something like this, are in what we call a category of one, meaning there is no plan B, right? There is no secondary option. There is no, I'm going to call somebody else and see if they'll do it cheaper. There is no, I'm going to drive down the street, and generally speaking, I mean, I guess you could technically take them to different hospitals, but for the most part, like, you got one option, and therefore, like, that's part of the reason that frame works so well. And so I'm a big believer in creating services that you're the only one who has. And often this isn't like completely reinventing the wheel. It's a what I call a 10-degree shift. So for example, for a long time we did Facebook ads, and we were the first ones to do it, but give it like 2-3 years and we had 100 competitors. Then eventually we shifted gears to, hey, we'll get you the high-end cases, in our cases motorcycle cases. And when we did motorcycle cases, we were the only ones that I knew doing it, right? There are a lot of people running ads, but we're the only ones to say, yeah, but our ads get you motorcycle cases, right? And so it put us in a category of one. If you wanted motorcycle cases, there weren't really a lot of other places you could go get that shit, right? And so then we're able to be far more choosy and far more selective about. So that's one of the things. Doctors also have an engineered position of authority. You've come to the doctor requesting help versus, and so this is why I'm not a huge fan of a lot of the strategies taught by the internet bros, like just cold DM a million people, because doctors don't knock on your fucking door to drum up business. You come to the doctor as the expert. So I'm a big believer in do things that make clients come to you. Run ads, post content, speak in your industry, be on podcasts, things like that that bring people to you as the expert. So the doctors have that going for it. And then I think the biggest piece, because I wanted to save this one for last, is most people misunderstand what marketing an agency really is, and marketing is really pre-selling. Okay, marketing is pre-selling. And by the way, to me, what that rules out is a lot of the stupid shit people do. So, for example, I'll give you some of the stupid shit people do. Right? Some people post memes. I post memes. They're funny, right? But we don't make sales from memes. Like they bond our audience to us. So there can be a reason for it. Some people post like inspirational quotes. Last I checked, ain't nobody bought shit from an inspirational quote. So what we're really doing is we're pre-selling ideas and concepts that lead into our thing. So if you understand that, what makes the doctor's situation work? A lot of it is they have 100% pre-selling. You're sold as the doctor is the expert, that the medical system is the way. There's actually a lot of things that were programmed from the marketing of the medical system and doctors that we don't even realize. And there is, in my opinion, almost a detrimental way, a blind belief in doctors as experts. A lot of doctors can't even make themselves healthy, let alone someone else. But nonetheless, people hold doctors in the highest of high regard, and therefore you trust them or her without asking too many questions, right? And the reason you trust him is the amount of pre-selling. He knows, he's went to school, he's practiced, there's 100 years of history, there's a backing of science. Those are ideas that have been pre-sold to us before you get to the doctor. Having said that, even still, if you went to 2 different doctors, so let's pretend, for example, this was way less of a medical emergency and way more of an elective situation, right? Let's say you're getting your elbow repaired because it hurts when you play tennis and you're thinking about getting elbow surgery, right? And you go to 2 different doctors, and Dr. A says, well, I don't know. Sometimes elbow surgery works, sometimes it doesn't. 50-50. Why don't you come in and find out? And then you go to a second doctor and he says, hey, listen, I've done this thousands of times. You are the ideal candidate for this. There is no guarantee this is going to make you 100% better, but just so you know, my batting averages are like 97, 98%. So there's a very, very good chance you're going to see some improvement and you'll be able to play tennis. I can't guarantee you that legally. It's your body, it's your healing process, but just so you know, we're really, really good at this. Which one of those doctors do you get signed up for? And it's always going to be the second one, right? The one who more confidently, with more certainty, more spoke to the outcome you want. In this case, playing tennis or solving that problem. You know, my elbow hurts when I play tennis. And so even with doctors, that outcome selling is more powerful. And this is why, by the way, some doctors, financially speaking, do better than others because they simply present the treatment with more certainty than others, especially on elective stuff, especially in America where they can go to, like, you know, 8 different doctors and they'll get 8 different opinions. The one who's like, yep, this is the way, I know exactly what I'm doing, I've seen this 100 times, I can't 100% guarantee it, but I'm going to tell you, like, I got a really high batting average, you're the ideal fit, I would love to have you, if you want to get started, here's how it works. The person who talks like that is going to close a lot more people than the doctor who goes, well, I don't know, 50-50, might work, maybe it doesn't. So I want you to look at that as like the combination of why the doctor can sell activity, category of 1, massive authority positioning, massive amounts of pre-selling. And most people, by the way, are very tactical about their own agency sales, so they don't do a lot of pre-selling, and therefore, you know, I learned this the hard way. So, like, how this showed up for me is there's a period of time where we were booking 100 to 200 calls every month, and everybody would tell me how awesome that was. Like, you booked 200 appointments this month? And I'd say, yeah. And what no one told you is there was no pre-selling. There was no authority positioning. We weren't really in a market of 1. So people would come to those calls and they'd be like 3 out of 10 on the idea of working together. So you could feel their arms folded, like, who are you? What is this about? Like, tell me again. All right, well, you know, send me a proposal. Like, that's how they would be. And when I started doing more pre-selling and more disqualifying, I ended up the next month had a drastic shift where we only had 6 people show up for calls, and I closed all 6. 6 for 6. But every single person I talked to was at least a 7 out of 10, usually an 8 or a 9. And they were like, okay, I saw your thing, I get it, I'm the right fit, what do we need to do to get started? I still got this question, but for the most part, I know this is something I want to do. And so I'm a big believer that most agencies just don't have enough repetition in their marketing and not have enough pre-selling. And if you do that, what happens is people trust you as the best, ask less questions, and are more apt to just move forward. But it takes time to build that, and I find everybody's kind of looking for the shortcut. And anyways, I'm going to get off my soapbox in this one. Again, condolences for what you're going through. I'm happy to answer any follow-up questions you may have on that, Andy. All right, Duran says, a deal is not closed until the invoice is paid. A deal is not closed until the invoice is paid. A deal is not closed until the invoice is paid. A deal is not closed until the invoice is paid. A deal is not closed until the invoice is paid. So I'm going to tell you guys something that, twofold, because I want to give you guys something useful on this that you can actually go use and get unstuck when people haven't paid their invoice, okay? The first thing to understand is that in our society, because salespeople are considered like slimy and full of shit and dishonest and things like that, it's become socially okay and acceptable to lie to salespeople. And I actually remember when I really first got the depth of this, I was listening to a guy named Ari Gelper, and he said he thought he had just landed $1 million deal that would have been the most life-changing sale he had ever made. And he said, they said, yep, go ahead and send us the proposal and the details, let us know what we need, blah, blah, blah. We're really excited. We see this being a long, fruitful partnership. And he said, then what happened is they thought they hung up the phone, but in fact did not. And he said, he heard the guy then turn around, say to his team, yeah, we're not going to go with that guy, but I want you to get a proposal for him so we can use that to negotiate with our current supplier. We're going to use them to get special pricing from the other guys. Let them know there's some competition in board. Anyway, string them along for as long as you possibly can. And Ari went from, like, on top of the world, get a $1 million deal, to, like, woo, crash off a cliff emotionally. I'm sure you guys can relate to that. So in Duran's case, that was somebody who, like, showed up with some money and then didn't pay the invoice, okay? So it has become normal to lie to salespeople, just so you know. So we want to find out for sure if they actually intended to move forward. And I'll tell you my favorite question that you can ask people. You can do this in text, you can do email. Do this as part of your sales process, is to simply ask, other than money, was there anything else that would stop you from doing this? And what you'll find is that's when the real reasons start coming out. They'll start going, well, things like that, right? I'm not sure about this, and I'm not sure about that. And you want to address those before you send any proposals or details or payment links or things like that. Okay, second thing, I don't know why this is, I'm just telling you that it is in a perfect world, you would send the payment link and they would pay it immediately and you would just get started and it would be that simple. And very rarely in practice is it as simple as send the payment link, okay, cool, payment paid, let's get started. And also, by the way, when you're dealing with people who have money, as a general rule, generally speaking, one of the reasons they have money is because they got more shit going on, more clients, more customers, more patients, bigger businesses, more employees, more shit to deal with. And so they're notoriously the ones who take the longest with paying invoices and things like that. And the reason I say that is because there is a magic to kind of like rekindling those people, if you will. And I'll tell you what has historically worked really, really well for us is rather than going, hey, did you see this link? Did you see my invoice? Did you see my proposal, which everyone else does? As I call it going deeper on the plan, is I simply remind them of why they wanted to do this shit in the first place. And then I go deeper on an individual step of the process we plan to execute. So let's say, for example, I send my payment link. We are trying to sell a water damage restoration guide SEO. And we sent the link, and now it's been 3 days, and we're starting to wonder, where the fuck did this guy go? He hasn't paid the link. Did he have a change of heart? And, the doubt circle can be intense. So instead of going, hey, did you see my link? Did you see my email? Do you still want to buy my service? Which is what everybody does. I would say, hey, Mr. Johnson, I remember you guys said that it was a really slow season and you were trying to find consistent work for your guys. Well, just so you know, I've been taking a look at this and I found these 50 keywords I think are the perfect fit for the things we talked about. I'm going to focus on these. Anyways, I wanted to send you this list just to let you know I've kind of gotten started on the process. Anyways, let me know when you sort the payment link and we can formally begin this, but really looking forward to it. Talk soon, Frankie. Okay? So all we did is we take an aspect of our service delivery, in this case, keywords, and we reminded them of the shit they wanted, and then we connected it with what we're going to do for them, and we just went deeper on the plan or the process. Instead of saying, yeah, we're going to do some keywords, I showed him specific keywords that relate to him and what he's trying to do, right? So that is how you follow up with people. You can do that on all aspects of your plan. So if I was doing that for SEO, I could go deeper on the changes I want to make to their website, or the changes I plan to make on their GBP, or the citations I want to build them, or the reviews I want to build them, right? Or the content I want to publish, right, on their behalf, based on what they told me they wanted in the first place. So that's how you get those deals unstuck, by the way. If you guys are interested in that, I have templates that I have never formally offered in public, but I'd probably sell them for like 50 or 100 bucks. So if you're interested in just getting our templates, I call them my unghost templates. You can just send me a message and say I'm interested in the unghost templates, and I can send you some deets on that. But anyways, get those fucking invoices paid, by the way. And remember, they're used to lying to salespeople, so sometimes there may be an uncovered objection. And also, they just get busy and they forget, and then they cool off. And you got to kind of rekindle them and remind them why they want what they want. And that's just part of the deal. And by the way, I feel like more sales are won and lost in this, both for yourself, your own agency, and your clients' agencies, by the way. Dentists, you work for dentists or any other equivalent industry, dentists lose more deals at the 98-yard line, the almost bots, way more than they lose deals, from strangers. Everybody thinks they need more strangers, but they usually need better systematic ways of dealing with the people who almost bought. I call this people on the fence, and almost always it's one of the biggest opportunities in every business is they have people on the fence and they don't know how to get them off the fence. Give you a real life example. We had some car shit. So I went, fuck this, we're getting a new car, and I contacted 10 different dealerships, and I looked at some options, and then I got busy with life. I had an event in Miami last week. I haven't picked up the car shit, but I'm not a no, just so you know. I didn't like change my mind. I still want us to have a nice, reliable transportation. I just got busy. I cooled off, right? So one of the best things that person can do is say, hey, remember you were having trouble with your other car, and you said you were looking at something like this, and you want to blah, blah, blah. Here's something I have that I think will fit what you're looking for. You want to come in and check it out, right? Like, that's how you rekindle someone. And again, like, knowing how to tip people on the fence is like one of the biggest income levers in the whole game. Andrew says, when the prospect shows interest and asks for more info on how your system works, but still haven't gotten around to watching your Loom video. Just so you know, I think this is going to be more and more normal. Like we mentioned Duran, somebody said they're interested. We mentioned Andrew here. Somebody said, send me some details on your shit, and now hasn't watched the video. People are fucking busier than they've ever been, and there's more noise than there's ever been. And with AI, the amount of noise is only going to accelerate. Knowing how to follow up with people and nudge them along, I think, is one of the biggest secrets. And honestly, we have to do a shit ton of it in our real estate stuff. Because very rarely do you message somebody one time and say, hey, I want to buy your house. And they go, okay, here's the keys. You know, it's almost always a process. It's like, well, how much would you give me? There might be some back and forth. And there might be like, you know, I buy this house from my granddaddy, and his granddaddy built it too, you know, shit like that. And often you have to touch them like 20, 30, 40 times before we actually get a signed deal. And so I've learned that like real estate, of all, you know, transactions, because it's the highest of high ticket transactions, it's like literally all of the follow-up, all of it. But I'll tell you, it's something that will help nudge people along. It is a small detail, but it is a very, very, very important detail. And it is understanding the difference between those two things. So I saw it in your message. It said the prospect requested information about your service. And that's, in their mind, that ain't what they're looking at. Almost always you want to reconnect them with why they were interested in your service in the first place. And Jason Canigan and I have done a shit ton of videos on this. There are only so many things. Like, they're slow. It's a slow season. They're getting jobs, but they're getting clients, or they're getting customers or patients, whatever, but they're the small shit that's not really worth any money. They're having a hard time making payroll, even though like the business is taking in money. They have gaps in their schedule. There's only so many things. And so when you remind them of why they wanted to do that, you basically take a sledgehammer and you grab their self-interest and you go, whammy, whammy, right? Like right in their self-interest. And so if you say, hey, I'm sending you a video about my service, they'll never care about your service. But if you say, hey, I'm sending you a video because you told me your crews of guys are slow and they've been standing around, you don't have steady work, and yet you still got to pay them, and you still have, shit to do, then you go whammy to their self-interest, because they care about their crews of guys that are costing $35 an hour standing around. They don't care about your service, which may be the solution to that. And that's all a fancy way of saying talk more about their problems. And I would take that a level deeper and say talk more about the symptoms of the problem showing up. Like, I'll give you an example. A lot of agency owners have retention problems, and their real problem is their average client value isn't high enough. That's their real problem. They don't know that. They just know that the client messaged them and said they're canceling, right? So if I was going to talk about it, I wouldn't say, is your retention and your average customer value too low? That's the real problem. That's the thing they don't understand. But they do understand, like, hey, did a client just cancel? Did your Facebook ad just get banned? Right? So the more you can speak to the client's symptoms as the problems are showing up in their reality, they're going to just assume you know the solution. And this is what you want to become a master at. It's like speaking to the problems in your industry that show up again and again and again. And it's like, it's not usually that fucking exciting. Like, I was just talking to a dude who does HVAC. You want to know HVAC problems? In the summertime, they get a million fucking air conditioning jobs. In the wintertime, they get a million fucking heating jobs. In between seasons, back to school, shit like that, they're real slow. Right? We're real slow. That's when they call you, when they're real slow. Every fucking season. And a lot of times they do like $49 tune-ups just to try and get anybody. You know, if I say, hey, does it sound like you? It's real slow as soon as September hits and you're running around trying to do $49 tune-ups. if I just say that sentence, they're practically like 80% of the way sold just by how accurately I described what's happening and what they're doing. So become a master of that, and you'll watch. You can send videos, you can send text, and people will go, holy shit, it's like you know everything about me. And it will be because you do. Because you've done your homework, you know. And a lot of that is summed up in 2 words, market research. If you guys aren't sure, by the way, I got a bot as members of this community. I got a custom GPT that will tell you your market's problems in 30 seconds. Run it, because it is straight up fucking gangster. Andrew Part 2. He says, Normies, starting a business is risky. Also Normies, it's been 2 weeks. Why aren't you rich? So which is it? Slow and risky or fast and easy? Normie logic, EXE, that's crack. I like that last line. That's funny, dude. You got a good sense of humor. So I'll tell you one of the hardest things to do for those of you guys who are in the starting in the agency phase, but also I just want you guys to know this never actually fully goes away, but is dealing with normies, you know, people in your life, friends, family that aren't fucking business people and do not believe in what you're doing. And to give you guys a little bit of hope, just so you guys know, I started in late 06 and I didn't make any money at all for almost 2 full years. It was probably more like I want to say like 20 months, like a year and like 6 months, 8 months. But it was a long ass time, right? Like a year and I tried shit every day. Just, you know, I didn't know what I was doing, but I tried shit every day. So I didn't make any money at all, zero. In fact, I still remember the first time a guy paid me on the internet. I was helping a friend to sell his real estate course, and somebody sent us $49. And I was like, holy shit, man, you're never going to get this. Somebody just gave us $49. And his immediate first question was, who was it? Who? Who did it? And I was like, I have no idea. That's the best part. And we spent an hour trying to Google the guy, but he had like a generic name, like a David Smith or a Bob Johnson, and it just was impossible to Google him. But it was kind of life-changing. But I say that during that whole period of time, I was pretty down and out in 06. Like I was sleeping on my girlfriend's couch, and her father-in-law was like, kick him out! He needs to get a real job, that fucking loser. You know, like my business wasn't a real thing. And, you know, he was just trying to protect his daughter. I get it. But it don't feel good when it's you, when people are doubting you and calling. And what I wish I knew in hindsight, it's not that they don't believe in you personally. It is that they don't believe that online businesses can succeed long term. And so they don't really believe in entrepreneurship. And so they're not necessarily doubting you. They just feel like a job is safer. And by the way, just so you guys know, jobs are just as fucking risky, okay? A lot of you guys saw that March of 2020. Like, the world went fucking crazy, and a lot of things that were previously stable businesses suddenly weren't. Even government jobs, right? Like, things that we thought would always be there. I experienced this personally. I used to, in a former life, I worked for the Ford Motor Company. I started as an office temp through my school in the front office, basically just working on spreadsheets all day. Pointless spreadsheets, and then I eventually moved up to floor supervisor after about 3-4 months, and I was there for like 3.5 years as a floor supervisor. And I remember one of the big discussions once I became part of the management group is they would constantly talk about there was a sister plant in Mexico that was handing our asses. And normally we would say, like, made in North America, it's better quality, but actually their quality rates were better. It was cheaper. They were faster, and the labor was so cheap, they could hire like 6 Mexicans for the price of 1 Canadian, and so they could just throw bodies at work. Oh, and also they could pollute the fuck out of the environment, which they couldn't do where I'm at. And so what ended up happening is I saw the writing on the wall. I was like, man, there's no way they're not going to close this plant at some point and just outsource it all to Mexico. It's better, it's faster, it's cheaper. Like, all of it just makes sense to me. And I ended up leaving to try and start my own thing. I failed. It was a failed magazine. I got many failures, just so you guys know, in my stories. If you guys ever want to hear about like failures, I'll tell you a bunch of epic ones. But anyways, I failed at a magazine. And anyway, I remember I went back post-2008 to visit my boss at Ford. And this is a 1 million square foot plant. It used to run 24/7, and I could run into thousands and thousands of people there. And I went, and it was a ghost town. And they said, yeah, they cut it back. And those jobs, by the way, have never returned since then, since that crash in 2008. So the reason I say that is your plan B can fail too. You might as well fucking go all in on plan A. All, like 100% all in. Even if everybody says you're not going to make it, blah, blah, blah. And just so you guys know, even when it works, people doubt you at higher levels. And then when it really, like epically works financially speaking, people will just say you got lucky. Nothing will drive you more crazy than when you're like a 10-year overnight success and people go, oh, it must be nice. You got so lucky. I'm like, you know, I was sitting in a room by myself answering fucking hundreds of emails on a Sunday night while you were at the fucking barbecue watching the football game. It ain't fucking luck, asshole. I'm not saying there isn't a luck factor. But part of this, what has helped me, is to understand they are trying just in their own mind to protect you from failure, and they're just trying to love you. What they don't understand is that failure is an iterative process, is that you get a little closer each time. So I think about this like, I was watching on YouTube the other day, and some motherfucker was playing like epically hard Mario levels. So they got this new like Mario creator. I don't know if it's new, but it's new to me anyway. And you can create levels, and motherfuckers have been creating like the hardest, most like difficult Mario levels that ever imagined. And you watch some fucker make crazy jump after crazy jump after crazy jump. But I'll tell you, somebody who's like a pretty good Mario player, I know for a fact that that's a fail forward. Is you try and run, and then the first like really difficult move, you fuck it up, and then you run and you fuck it up, and you run and you fuck it up, and you run and you fuck it up, and then eventually after like 7 tries, you can get past the first difficult part of the level, and then you run a little bit, and then eventually there's a second thing, and you keep dying on the second one and the second one, and then eventually you get through that, and you get to the third, and eventually through a series of failures, you can go the whole level all the way through. In fact, my little girl just brought me, she was playing Mario Odyssey on her Nintendo Switch. She's like, Daddy, I can't do this. And I went and did it. It was like first try. Boom! And she's like, how did you do that? I'm like, well, you didn't see the 1,000 times I failed at it. Right? Trying to figure out the stupid fucking level. Throw the controller down like cocksucking motherfucker stupid Mario level. But I did it 1,000 times, and now I can do it first try every time, right? And so failure is an iterative process. If you understand that, the only real failure is stopping permanently. That's failure. And so as long as you're failing forward, you're winning. So all these people, like, what they're trying to do is protect you from failure and shit not working out. What they don't understand is the failures are what paved the way to actually beat the fucking level, right? Like, that's how it's done. You just fail forward. So anyways, I just say that because don't let those normies get you down, man. This is for all of you guys. We all have people who like don't believe in you and what you're doing. And in their own way, usually they're like people who love you, right? So it's extra hard because you kind of might love and respect that person in another context. And yet, when it comes to your own business and your own shit, they do nothing but talk shit about you. And by the way, they never stop. They never stop. No matter how successful you become, they still talk shit. So, like, do what you want to fucking do anyway. And I always say it's easier to apologize than explain. Explain is like you try and tell them, like, here's why I'm doing this and here's why it's going to work out. So I can tell my father-in-law, I'm building this online business. You can't see the foundational pieces I'm building, but this is going to pay for my life. I'm going to be able to live anywhere in the world. It's going to be awesome. That's explaining. Apologizing is like, hey, sorry, dude. I know how much it would mean to you for me just to have a regular, real job, and I get it. That's apologizing. But I always prefer to apologize, not explain. It'll get you a lot farther. And explaining is like you try and get them to come to your point of view. And if they shared your point of view, they wouldn't be in a fucking job, right? So, like, you know, you can still respect those people, but, like, you know, I always have a simple rule when it comes to advice. Have you done the thing you're trying to do? So I had some guy, like, on our YouTube channel, like, wrote me this long criticism of how he didn't like my videos and the style and blah, blah, blah. And I need to do more of this and less that and blah, blah, blah. And then I clicked on his shit, and he's got 0 videos published. He's never built a YouTube channel. Like, of course, you never get criticized by people more successful than you. But I simply asked myself, has this guy actually done it? And when the answer was no, I'm like, I don't really need to listen to that advice, right? I listen to people who've done it. Like, if you're sitting in a room and there's 100 people and they're all talking about making money, and 2 of them are like billionaires with a B or multi-millionaires, whatever, like let's say they're worth 10 million or more, you can safely ignore 98 of the opinions in that room and go listen to the 2 people who've actually done it. And so that's been another useful filter is like I remember I told my mom before she died that I was getting into real estate, and she went off and, like, you know, told me all this shit I should do. And I love my mom. She's a nice lady, but like she was a drunk who never bought anything. In fact, I remember she broke up with a boyfriend and he put a down payment on a house, and she had that house for 2 years, and then she eventually gave it back to the bank. And so, like, I love my mom, but, like, she's not the one who should be giving me real estate advice, right? So, like, if I listen to real estate advice, I got my friend and mentor, Matt Larson, who's done 4,000 fucking deals. Who do you think I'm going to listen to? I love and appreciate both of them, but on the subject of real estate, ain't no fucking contest. Matt's opinion is solid gold, and my mom's is like, you can just safely ignore that. And so I've learned that when people haven't done the thing that they're advising you on, criticizing you on, suggesting, it doesn't matter what it is, like, I just ignore it. Friends and family, thanks, Mom. I usually just say thanks for their advice, and they go, whoop, in the first ear and bloop, out the other. All right. Anyways, I'm just ranting on that because I know that's hard for a lot of you guys. Like, anti-cheerleaders are a real thing, and it's just difficult, man. Like, people who don't believe in your shit. All right. Anonymous, is this a good time to start a content marketing agency? What's the best way to get clients now? Okay, this is a loaded question, okay? The first question implies, is this a good time to start? Let's just talk about that detail, not specifically a content agency, but is it a good time to start? It's a good time to start all the time. And you know why? Because almost always people are looking for the most perfect, favorable conditions, the market just to be right, and you are financially set up where you can, have some runway to make everything work. You know when the perfect time is? Never. Never. There's never a fucking perfect time. The perfect time is when you decide, I'm going to go do some shit. So that's the first piece. Is it a good time? Yes. If you want it to be, right? But I'm going to tell you, there's never going to be perfect conditions. There's always going to be difficulties and challenges. You're ready when you're fucking ready. That's the first piece of the puzzle. Second question is it a good time specifically to start a content marketing agency? I would go, it depends, but probably not for what most of you guys are doing. Why? Because it's gotten very easy to make content. ChatGPT, like Sora and VO3 make videos. Like, a lot of motherfuckers can make content easier than they've ever made content. Okay? So what I always do is look for unmet needs in the industry. So here's an example, which may be an unmet need. I don't know this, but maybe there's an unmet need for people to ghostwrite books. That is a form of content. Or to ghostwrite like talking head videos, where we can produce content, but the person doesn't have to be in the video. And so the way you find out what's needed in the market is you become a student of the market. And my favorite way is real simple. I just join communities where the people I'm trying to sell to hang out and look at their questions and read their comments and see what they like and see what they don't like. And if you listen to it long enough, you'll always find little unmet needs. Always. Right? So, like, for example, my city, La Paz here, has too much restaurants, right? Like, there's too many restaurants here. If you're competing, it's difficult. But I'll tell you, like, I went the other day and said, man, I would love to have some Indian food. I haven't eaten Indian food in a long time. And I looked up, and you know how many Indian food restaurants there are here in my city of 300,000? Zero. There used to be a guy who did it as catering, takeout. He's like a real Indian guy, and he was like, I'll get you the best tasting naan bread of all time with extra butter. Right, like that guy. And he don't exist anymore. And so, like, I can't get it. So it's a really good time to start an Indian restaurant. Like, that's a niche down. The market needs it. I'll tell you what's a really bad time. There's a restaurant that opened in my little suburb. I live in the suburbs of La Paz. I don't actually live in the city of La Paz. I live in the suburb. But anyway, there's a taco place that opened up. Guess what's next door to the taco place? You guessed it, a taco place. And guess what at nighttime parks out in front? A taco stand. So that's like 3 taco places per square foot, right? So that's not needed in the market. If you researched it and studied the market, you would not come to the conclusion what's needed is another taco place. But you would go, hey, man, like an Indian restaurant, nobody's doing that. So, like, my question is, there's a million kinds of content. I would study the market and find out which one of those is truly, genuinely needed. And then it makes a really awesome, good time to start it because you're actually solving a need. Money follows needs, by the way. Money follows needs. Money follows needs. Money follows needs. Figure out something people need that they aren't currently getting enough of. Like, I saw a guy who the other day said, I'll make short form videos for your Facebook ads with a thumbnail and everything for $50 a piece. There's tons of motherfuckers doing video editing, but there's a need for people to do it specifically for Facebook ads, which is why he's doing well with it. Okay? So that's the second question. Content marketing specifically, if you niche down and find a need, then yes. Third piece, how do we get clients? Now, okay? 6 ways to get clients. They haven't fucking changed in 20 years. Okay? The nuance has changed. Way number one, one-to-one. You message people, you email them, you Instagram them, you Facebook message, you send them a LinkedIn DM. You go, hello there, you who's never heard of me, I got something for you. Method number 2, you run ads. Facebook, YouTube, mostly Facebook ads are what you guys are all running these days. You run some ads, you put your shit in front of people, and they discover your stuff, and they come to you. Thing number 3, publish content. You're looking at it right now. Like, I publish a lot of content. People find me, find my shit. It's amazing how that works, right? So you can make podcasts, you can make videos, you can write shit, you can go on the Instagram and post videos, you can get on the OnlyFans and shake your asshole, and that'll probably bring you some clients. I don't know if those are the kind of clients you want. Fourth is, okay, you network. You go to the meetings. You shake the motherfuckers' hands. You go to the conference. You go to the places where they go. Fifth thing, referral partners. Right? You find people who know the people you want to know, and you do cool shit for them until they feel like they owe you, and start sending you people and going, hey, I trust this guy, you should too. And they make introductions for you. And then the 6th one is my favorite way, is you find people who already have audiences in your industry, and you co-create stuff with them. And this builds massive authority and gives you immediate reach to the people you're trying to reach. 6 ways, that's how we get clients. But you're going to have to do one of those things. Clients don't fall out of the fucking sky. And I guess you could add the 7th way. I'm not a huge fan of it, but hiring sites, so like Upwork and Fiverr primarily, you can go to those places. Just understand that it's a lot of competition. You're going to be, you're going to get beat up on price, but if you're just getting started, Upwork and shit like that can be useful for you. Anyways, I hope that's helpful, Mr. Anonymous, or Mrs. Anonymous. Next one we got. This wasn't a question so much as just something I wanted to rant on. It says, congrats, Brendan. Everyone else says you have to chase 10,000 potential clients one at a time, but you can just publish authority content where 10,000 potential clients will see it. One-to-many selling 101. Congrats on getting in the industry's biggest association. There's an attached image where Brendan says, gotta win. My article is appearing in the Custom Builder, the National Home Builders Association magazine. All right? So let me give you a big idea here that I think is incredibly useful. And I learned this from one of the OG legends who some of you guys have seen. We did some interviews with him. Jay Abraham, who, by the way, is one of the most successful marketing people ever. And so many people credit him with learning how to think about this stuff and all that. Jay Abraham, by the way, today is Tony Robbins' mentor. He's Damon John's mentor. And I know that if you want to consult with him, you get 1 meeting a quarter. And he charges $250,000 to meet with him 4 times per year. So what's that per meeting? Like $60K, $62,500. Not too shabby, Jay. You get 4 one-hour meetings and you pay $62,000 and a half an hour. And for the right person, it's worth it, by the way. But Jay's an OG, okay? And one of the things Jay said is, if you got a business that's under $10 million, which describes 99% of you guys, he said, instead of chasing clients one-to-one, you should focus on what I would call distribution, or audience owners, or shoe stores, or grocery stores, or deal sources. I have all kinds of names for it. But you should connect with people who already have your target audience, because that is the fastest way to get going. So I'll give you an example of how I saw this. I met many personal injuries that were trying to do what everybody else says you have to do, one-to-one market. And so they're running Google ads, and they're doing SEO, and they're doing Facebook ads, and they're publishing content and doing all those things. It's a lot of fucking work, and it's really expensive. And then I remember I met a guy. He knew 6 chiropractors / physiotherapists in the area. And what happens is when somebody gets in an accident, in his case, they go to the physiotherapist or the chiropractor for medical treatment to, fix their back and their hips and all the places they're injured. And those people, because he would like schmooze them and wine and dine them and help them out and be cool to them, they would refer his practice. And what he said is he did multiple millions a year with 6 referral partners. Count them, 6. So he didn't have to convince millions of people, he had to convince 6. And that is the power of like a deal source or an audience owner is like a good physiotherapist, they don't just see one injured person, they see like 20 of them a day, every day, all day, and will forever and ever. So if you win them over, they can send you business again and again and again and again. And that is my favorite way of doing it. Is there is somebody in your industry right now who has a podcast who needs a cool show. There is somebody in your industry right now that has a stage full of audience members and needs something cool to say to them. There are people in your industry right now that are publishing YouTube channels and need shit that to say to the people watching videos. There is somebody who writes an industry magazine and needs useful content to be able to send out to them. The magic of it is very simple. I did this in my 90-day challenge. So the number one question I got asked over the last 6-7 years, you're me, you're starting over, you want to get to 10K a month as fast as possible, what would you do? So I did it, documented the process. And one of my moves was to publish stuff in the industry associations. And I, like Brendan, published a thing in the industry magazine. And one of the things that happened is, first of all, I found out 32,000 people receive that magazine every month. So did they read every page? Probably not. They ended up publishing one of my articles on the front cover. So it went out, and I ended up getting booked for a couple of industry speaking things. One of those I did with John Maranko, who's a cool-ass motherfucker. If you're listening, John, shout out to you. And that would not have happened had I not started with the distribution. Had I not started with, let's get our stuff published where everybody's going to see it. And so I know everybody says you should cold DM 1 million people. But how long would it take me to cold DM 32,000 restoration contractors? And how much rejection would there be? Versus I publish one article that goes on the front cover that gets seen by 32,000 of them. Plus, I'm now the expert who's on the front cover. So I'm not saying you have to do it like I do it. I'm just saying that I believe it's far, far more efficient than what's taught in our space. Right? I literally can get on the front cover with one fucking message. For somebody else to get in front of 32,000 of them, they would have to send 31,999 other messages. And then you start seeing them worry about servers and upkeep and blah, blah, blah. And they don't get the same level of expert status. Like, they're just a stranger in the inbox. I'm the guy who literally published the industry magazine front cover best idea that you guys have had in a while, right? So that's the magic of doing it that way. So I just wanted to rant on that because I'm a big believer in that. If you guys are interested in hearing more about that, I'm happy to share more about how that whole thing works. All right, last question. Paul says, is anyone using AI voice agent on their business website yet? Do users engage with it or bail? We have folks doing it, a number of folks doing it. I think of George P., our man in Colorado. He's doing this for multi-location. The Lane Train, Lane Houck, is doing this with franchises. And we got a number of people doing different variations. Russ Ward comes to mind. But just so you guys know, there are a couple AI voice solutions where they're so good already today, you cannot tell. So we actually did this at Lane's house. So we were, not at his house, we were at the campground near his house. We're in the beautiful Rockies. There's nobody around, and there's 7 of us. And 6 of us are marketers, and 1 of them is not. And so we asked the guy, we said, hey, we're trying to train this new employee on answering the phone. She knows she's going to get some test calls. Do you think you could call her and just run a little test and see what you think of her and just let her know at the end that this was a practice call and not like the real thing, and here's your backstory? So he called this, I forget what kind of business we said we were calling, some kind of trade, home services thing. So he called and went through the call, and then like 3.5 minutes later said, oh, this is just, a training call. Thanks for doing this, blah, 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 talk later. And then at the end of it, we said, did you know you were talking to artificial intelligence that entire time? And he was like, what? Get the fuck out of here. There's no way that's AI. And I was like, oh yeah, dude, you're talking to AI that entire, no. And so I'm here to tell you that like people not only, with the right solutions, not only do they engage with it, but they actually like it. And there's a real benefit to doing it is firstly, AI can be programmed so that It's already up to date on all the latest training for that business, their hours, the locations they serve, answers to FAQ questions, objection handling, etc. And you put all of that in its knowledge base. Secondly, can handle 1,000 calls at once. A human can only handle one at a time. Thirdly, it's cheaper than a human. And then lastly, besides all that, it's like 24/7 available, right? And so I think it's only a matter of time. You're going to see, I remember growing up, we used to have bank tellers, and when you called businesses, people answered the phone. So you went to the bank, you got a human being, they checked your account, they updated your book, they stamped it, and then later I can remember, whenever you called a business, you never got these automated switchboards like, thank you for your call. Your call is important to us. Right? Like, you didn't get any of that shit. You just got a human in the early days anyway. And I can remember when everybody switched over. I think these AI voice solutions are so good. You're going to see in the next 1 to 5 years, you're going to see every receptionist you've ever known lose their job. They might be doing other shit. They might be on welfare. Who knows? But they're not going to work as receptionists because the AI voice solutions are too good. Especially because so many receptionists are just straight up fucking bad at their job. So, yes, they are good enough. And if you guys are interested in what are the best ones today, just shoot me a message and just say, I'm interested in the best voice AI, and I'll recommend. The reason I don't want to post this in video is because, like, the technology is changing in, like, every week, 2 weeks, 5 weeks. So I don't want to have this recorded and have everybody think, like, this is our preferred solution forever. I'll just tell you what is the best option now. If you want to use it, you can use it. And if you don't, you don't. You don't hurt my feelings either way, but I'm going to share with you what's working. Anyways, that's all I got for you guys today. I wish you guys a happy Monday. Just for those of you guys who missed the intro, I'm doing a free training this Thursday. You don't need to register or anything, but just drop a comment, say free training. I'm going to show you guys how to turn your service into tools, and I'll tell you this has been one of the biggest life changes for me, because what it means is, I'm like, just being real with you guys, like, I ain't the greatest at fulfillment. I realize that hanging around, the 7-figure agency event, that there's some really brilliant operators. I ain't one of them. And I know how to do all the shit. I know how to build systems and processes and project management. I just fucking hate it. I hate it. And one of the big switches is I figured out how to turn services into rentable tools, rentable intellectual property. And when you figure this out, what happens is, tools are so much easier to get people results, and they're easier to sell, and they work faster, and, like, you don't have to do all the fulfillment stuff. There isn't all the meetings and updates, and can you let me know when this is going to happen? It's the difference between, hey, I'm going to be your Facebook ads person, versus here's my winning ad, and I'll license it to you, and you can rent my winning ad. And here I made it so it's a couple of buttons for you to set it up and have that same winning ad in your own account. Right? In that second scenario, I'm not a service provider. I'm just renting you intellectual property. And so it has infinite leverage. So if you guys are feeling burnt out on delivery and fulfillment, or just not super confident because it's hit and miss, because it's service, it depends on people and shit like that, you may find, like, my style of doing it, of renting intellectual property, way better, and it scales better. Just so you know, it scales 1,000,000 times fucking better. 1,000,000 times better, because your fulfillment life just gets easier. So if you guys are interested, come on board, check out that free training. Just drop a comment below, and I will post that. And that's all I got for you guys. Happy Monday. Mucho love. Appreciate you guys. May the force be with you. Peace out, my G's.
Buy my book, or I will reprogram your smart fridge to only give you pizza with pineapple on it.